right now the Panthers favor either C.J. Richardson or C.J. Stroud or Anthony Richardson. Frank Reich came out and he was asked about Bryce Young, and he says, well, Bryce Young's size is not going to be held against him as far as we're concerned. And that's what he's got to say, because they have to go through the process. People need to know, as we're taping this show right now, Bryce Young is probably finishing up his pro day workout at Alabama for NFL scouts, for Frank Reich, for the brain trust of the Carolina Panthers, as well as the general manager, Scott Fitterer, who were all at Ohio State. So I think Frank Reich is saying the right things. You don't want to exclude anybody at this point, even though it seems like the top two quarterbacks on their board are either C.J. Stroud or Anthony Richardson, or at least that's the way that they're leaning. You can't discount Bryce Young. The guy has been too terrific the past couple of seasons. Heisman Trophy winner. Doesn't have great size, doesn't have the big arm, but he gets it between the ears. And that's going to be an interesting conversation, an interesting interview between Frank Reich, the former quarterback, as well as Bryce Young.
Yeah, Tony, a couple of things, if you don't mind me bouncing these ideas off you. Anthony Richardson, I mean, that's the ultimate boom or bust, right? I mean, look, this guy's an athletic freak. There's no question about it. But can you really take him at number one overall? I
wouldn't. A couple of things. Number one, as we talked about last week, how much input does the owner have? I mean, if Frank Reich and Scott Fitterer want C.J. Stroud, but the owner wants Anthony Richardson because he wants to make a big splash, how much input is that going to have? Is he going to get his way? And you have to remember, when scouts look at a player, they always say, what does this guy do best? And when you look at Anthony Richardson, he's got the arm, he's got the athleticism, he's got the size, he can make plays in the pocket, he can roll outside the pocket. So when they look at sort of the bad portions of the game, the fact that the throws get away from him, the fact that he never carried Florida on their shoulders. I mean, they lost to Vanderbilt this year. They got beaten up by Florida State, where he completed 30% of his passes. Football coaches do exactly that. They say, well, we're going to coach this guy to be, to basically be more accurate. Doesn't always work out. I would agree with you. I wouldn't take Anthony Richardson, but the word is, and I heard this even yesterday at Ohio State Pro Day, he is in the conversation. He is in the mix for that number one pick.
And real quickly, I think it's smart for Frank Reich to say everything he's saying, because they may actually love one guy the most, but they don't want anybody to know that. Right. They want everybody to think, oh, we're good with either one of them. So maybe someone comes up with an offer that blows them away. Look, Kyle, you said earlier, it's not only about teams minimizing risk, it's about maximizing the value of the pick.
Right.
Okay. The pick isn't the draft pick isn't about a player. It's about the pick itself and what the value of the pick is. For example, in Chicago now, they're ninth? Well, what people say, what do they do at 9? I said, if I were them, I'd see if I could trade that back and get more picks, because it's about the value of the pick in relation to how it helps your team. If you think one player can help your team immensely, then you're all in on that player. But you have to understand what the value of the pick is. It's not just a player. It's what that pick can bring you in return if somebody else values a player more than the pick itself.